Traveling abroad can be the adventure of a lifetime, but without a solid budget in place, it can quickly turn into a financial headache. But don't worry, creating a travel budget is actually a lot easier than you think. No matter how many countries you're visiting or how many currencies you're going to be using, we're going to break all that stuff down in today's video. Hi, I'm Jacob Wade from Lunch Money. I'm a financial coach, and today I want to walk you through how to create a travel budget when you're traveling abroad. From setting clear financial goals to figuring out how to manage multiple currencies and multiple destinations, we're going to break all that stuff down. But if you stay to the end of the video, I want to show you the real magic where the Lunch Money app will help you track all of your spending along the way and convert all of your spending into the currencies that you're using in each of the countries that you visit. We'll do everything automatically. We have automatic conversions. You can see exactly where you're at any time. We'll make this piece simple. We're the best at this piece of it. So make sure you stick around to see how that works. All right, just like planning any vacation, before you go, you need to do a little bit of research and ask yourself a few questions like, how much can I afford to spend, right? What are you willing to spend maybe each day or each week? Or if you're planning to do slow travel and do the digital nomad thing, what's your monthly budget for your international travel? And then you need to figure out, where am I going to visit? The places you visit are all gonna have varying costs, and things are priced differently between countries. So make sure you figure out, where is it that I have to go? I really want to go to these places, and then how much things cost there. And then finally, what do you want to do at all those locations? Obviously, traveling the world has an unlimited amount of adventures you can go on, but figure out the must-haves. I gotta go do these things, and then the things that you would really like to do, and then figure out what works within that budget. All right, and speaking of budget, here are kind of the four main categories you need to think about. One is, where are you gonna stay? What are the accommodations you're gonna have? Now, when you're traveling abroad, there's lots of different ways to travel. You could just do the hotel route, or you could find an Airbnb if you're a little longer term, or if you're looking to budget travel, you might consider staying in a place like a hostel or somebody that has weekly or monthly rates to save you money. So you gotta think about where you're gonna stay. You gotta think about how you're going to get around and how you're going to get there. So this includes the flights there and between the countries that you want to visit. This includes maybe doing ground transportation like buses or trains, and then local transportation just to get around the cities that you want to explore. And of course, you got to eat. So make sure you plan for food costs. Again, if you're going to be there a little bit longer, consider, how can I do this in a more budget-friendly way where I can make meals at the place I'm staying at? And then of course, make sure you have some money in there to go eat out and experience some of the food options locally. And then finally, what are the activities you want to do? You're gonna need a budget for those things. Of course, there's low-cost things like just exploring a city, but you might want to do a tour or go visit somewhere like the Eiffel Tower, right? That's gonna have a cost to go in there and check that out. And then finally, what are the activities you wanna do while you're there? Of course, there are free things like just walking around the city, but maybe you wanna budget for things like tours or visiting specific attractions or going and having very specific experiences in those locations. All of those things have a cost. Make sure you account for those. And outside of those main costs, it's always a good idea to budget for the unexpected. Have money set aside for emergencies that pop up or unexpected costs that you just couldn't account for. Have that money set aside so you don't have to freak out when it happens. The money's already there. All right, so that's the basics of how to sort of plan your budget. You're also going to need to start pricing things out, doing some research specifically by the destinations you choose to go to. Different locations are going to have different costs of living and different costs of food and transportation and accommodations. You're going to need to research the cost of those things and add them into your budget to see what you can afford to do and what you want to do. So when you're creating the budget, of course, like if you're going to go to Spain, for example, just look up how much is it going to cost to stay there, how much is food in general, or these activities that I want to do, what do those cost? And then do that for each location that you plan on visiting when you're traveling abroad. I think the goal here is you might not be able to do everything. So make sure you prioritize the experiences and activities you want to do that you are sort of your must-haves, and then everything else is sort of on the, man, it would be nice if I could get to this list, but if you can't afford it or you don't have the time or whatever, like just have a secondary list. So you have your priority list of like, I got to do these things, and then your secondary list. Now, one little tip for this is maybe you are visiting multiple types of locations that have lots of different costs. So maybe you spend a little more time in the budget-friendly locations, but you make sure you go to those pricier locations for at least a couple of days to get that experience in but you could do it in a more efficient way. So you're not wasting your entire budget in that more expensive location, but you still get to have the experience. So for example, like if you want to go travel Europe and visit a few different destinations, maybe you could spend a little more time in budget-friendly places like Poland or in Portugal, but then you're going to spend at least a couple of days in Paris or Zurich, right? Places that are going to be a lot more expensive, but have sort of that rich experience that you're looking for. Now you have a general idea of how much it costs to go to those locations and a general budget of how much you want to spend and what you have available. Now it's a good idea to have a budget framework. And here's what I mean by that, is to sort of break your budget down into 3 separate categories so you know how much to spend in each. Number 1 would just be your essential expenses. This is the how much does it cost to get there and just be there, right? This is transportation, this is your accommodation costs, and this is food. That's your baseline expenses just to get there and be at those locations. Then you can add in what's called fun money. These are the things you actually want to do while you're there. The activities, the tours, the experiences, the things that are going to cost some money, but you get to go do and enjoy at the locations you're at. And then finally, have that savings buffer, right? Having a little bit of money set aside just in case. Now, what can be really helpful is sort of breaking this down by percentage. It's an easier way to think about it. So let's say you have about $5,000 a month to budget. You're going to do some long, slow travel throughout Europe for a couple of months. You have $5,000 a month to use. What you would want to do is break it down to about 60% of your budget would go towards your essentials. So you have about $3,000 a month just to be there and travel around and cover your food costs. If you could live on $3,000 a month, that's a great baseline. Then you could tack on 30% in fun money, about $1,500 a month to go toward all of the cool experiences and things you want to do while you're in Europe. And then you'll set aside about 10% of that, about $500 a month as that savings buffer for the, whoops, I didn't even know that this would be an expense, or oh no, something came up. So then you have a budget breakdown of 60% essentials, 30% fun money, 10% savings buffer, and that's gonna help you stay on track when you're tracking your spending. Now that you have a general idea of what your budget maybe could be for this, let's talk about some ways to save money to stretch your dollars further so you can actually enjoy more time in the location that you're at. So here's a few savings opportunities. Number 1 is try to use local transportation instead of private transportation, meaning if you could hop on a trolley or a train or something that has a lower cost, like a local bus system, versus private taxis or Ubers, ride shares, things like that, that could save you a good amount of money. Number 2 is just try to do more free activities. Getting out and exploring when you're traveling world, just being out there is an experience in itself. It doesn't have to cost money. So you could do a walking tour, you could visit a public park or a state or a national park in those locations and really take in those sites, but not have to spend money to do it. And then number 3 is eat like a local. Find, street food or small markets where you can find food instead of going to touristy restaurants or high-end restaurants and experiencing that. Of course, budget a little money for those things. But for example, if you're walking around Thailand, you could get street food for about $2 a meal instead of getting pulled into a restaurant and have to spend $20, $30, $40, $50 or more. And then finally, let's talk about currency conversion for a second, because it does cost money to convert your currencies, but there's also all these fees that can get added on top that can destroy your budget. They're called foreign transaction fees. So if you're going to use a credit card, for example, maybe it's a credit card that's accepted worldwide, it's a Visa, and you can go swipe it around the world. Some credit cards charge foreign transaction fees, and they'll put an extra 3% on top of the charges every time you swipe your card. So you want to make sure you find a credit card with no foreign transaction fees. Also, if you want to get local cash, they have currency conversion booths and locations. Those can be very expensive conversion rates and kind of be a ripoff, to be honest. So finding a local ATM might get you a better rate, but again, there might be fees. So find one that doesn't have high currency conversion fees in it, and then use something like the Schwab debit card. So Schwab is an investment company, but they have a checking account with a debit card that doesn't charge any foreign transaction fees or ATM fees worldwide. So you could go get the local currency cash pulled out without having extra fees added on top. So avoiding those foreign currency conversion and transaction fees can save you a boatload of money, and again, stretch your dollars further. All right, so now I'm just here in the Lunch Money app, and I want to show you how easy it is to track your spending in multiple different currencies, in multiple different countries, all in one place. So I'm gonna get out of the way here. First things first, if you just go up to the settings at the top here, you can see we have different supported currencies, and there's 167 of them. And I've actually added a few. So I've got Japanese yen, I've got the euro, the Thai baht, and the US dollar is my main primary currency that the conversion goes into. But if you hit the drop down, you can add so many more currencies. And so now that I've got this added, let's just do an example of spending some money in Thailand. So I'm going to go over to the finances section here under transactions. You can see there's a few transactions that have come through. Now, these transactions were made on a credit card, and that credit card, when I swiped my card there, it said charge in local currency. I wanted it to convert it for me because I knew that my credit card did not have foreign transaction fees. So I swiped the card, I said do in local currency. What's awesome about Lunch Money is it's smart enough to know that it was in Thai baht and it came in, you can see, as THB. So that's what's really, really cool about Lunch Money is we will bring it in, and then check this out. You could see that I've spent 243 US dollars, even though all of the currency that's being tracked is in a foreign currency. So we automatically do the conversion rates for you. It's all built in. You don't even have to think about it. And as you track, it'll show you an update of how much you've spent in that category in your home currency. So it's really, really powerful. The other cool thing is, let's say you pulled out some cash and you want to track those cash transactions. So say you spend 1,000 Thai baht on a meal. So I actually added this in here as a cash transaction, but here's what's cool. It started as US dollars, but I could go through and say, oh, here's the currency it's in. So as those transactions come through, you can quickly adjust them to the type of currency that they're in, and it will automatically convert that for you. It's super powerful. I don't know of any other app out there that can track this powerfully. So this is how to quickly use Lunch Money, track your transactions. They will come in the local currency. If they're not in the local currency, you can quickly adjust those things, and you can see very fast about how much I spent, about $243 I spent on accommodations, food, and a bicycle tour in Thailand in the first day here. So this is so powerful because tracking where your money is going when you're traveling abroad is going to help you stay on track with your budget. It'll make sure you don't go further into debt or spend more than you've allotted for yourself, because sticking to your budget while you're traveling abroad is not easy when there's so many amazing things to do. So Lunch Money, we make that easy. Creating a travel budget doesn't have to be overwhelming. All you have to do is set a few clear goals, ask yourself a few questions, do a little bit of research, and plan for those expenses before they come up. So then when you go and actually travel, all you got to do is track your expenses in a really cool app like Lunch Money that will do all the hard lifting and conversions for you. Speaking of, if you want a free 30-day trial of Lunch Money, we got a link below. You can sign up, no credit card needed, connect your financial accounts, and start getting on track with your money. Start planning for that upcoming trip. And if you have an upcoming trip planned, I would love to hear about it. Where do you plan on going? What do you plan on doing? I'd love to hear about international travel. And of course, if you want help tracking your expenses along the way, we're here for you. Free 30-day trial, link below, and you can sign up.